Today's episode is about my experience beginning an investing journey by organizing finances and budgeting. Welcome back. For this episode, I'm sharing something a bit personal, how I began my investing journey. It didn't start with buying an investment property and shares or diving into complex strategies. It began with something a lot less glamorous, educating myself and organizing my finances, as well as learning to budget properly. This shift changed the way I saw money, and honestly, it changed my relationship with money. For a long time, I wanted to start investing, but I kept putting it off. Until 8 years ago, one of my colleagues told me over a phone conversation that he owns investment properties. I remembered thinking, how? He probably earns not much more than me. I felt like I didn't have enough money, or enough knowledge, or enough confidence. Everything felt a bit messy. Some bills here, some subscriptions there, and I did not know how much my husband and I saved or can saved. That phone call inspired me to research on how to invest, read a few more classic books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, The Barefoot Investor by Scott Pape, The Armchair Guide to Property Investing, How to Retire on $2,000 a Week by Kingsley and Bryce Holdaway, and came across their budgeting techniques and the Property Couch podcast. That was the real beginning of my investing journey. One key message I learned from these books were investing would help our family achieve financial freedom. The first thing I did was look at where my money was going. Not where I thought it was going, where it really went. I pulled up our bank statements, checked every expense, tracked my food spending, the casual purchases, dining out, all of it. It was a little confronting, but also strangely freeing. I could finally see the whole picture. I realized we weren't bad with money, we were just operating without a map. And surprise, we did have some surplus which we could invest. At the beginning, my husband created a spreadsheet to track our money. We built a budget that made sense for our lifestyle. Nothing dramatic, no extreme cutting, no strict rules we'd never stick to. We focused on clarity. This much for bills, this much for daily living, this much for dining out. My husband and I often discussed before any big purchases and preferred buying the items with cash over credit card or finance. Whatever money we saved went to pay our mortgage. Later on, we noticed that it did not the best way after all, because we often went over the budget planned for the week, so we adjusted it along the way. I will explain our current money management system in future episodes. With our budget sorted, we finally saw where investing could fit. At first, it wasn't much, but it was something. We started small, and we told ourselves it didn't matter how tiny the first steps were. What mattered was starting. I set up a share investing account and started buying a small amount of shares. However, I really didn't understand much of the share market and only followed books and expert advice, which proved not so wise decisions. In the meantime, I also convinced my husband that property investment could be our long-term investment choice towards retirement. One reason was because my super was really small at the time, as I was on maternity break for 5 years, which felt like forever, and I just starting to get back to work. Once my husband and I were agreed to focus on property investment, we began setting goals. Not other people's goals, our. How much do we need to start our property investment journey? Where and what were we going to buy? At that stage, we did not know or foresee what the end goal would be. We were newbies with little experience in property investment apart from purchasing our family home. When we realized our goals with our timeline and risk level, choosing investments became much clearer. The confusing jargon suddenly felt manageable. We bought our first investment property 2 years after that phone call. When I look back, I realize we didn't begin investing the day we bought the first asset. It began the day we decided to organize our finances and take control. Getting our money in order didn't feel exciting at the time, but it gave us the confidence and structure to actually start investing, stay consistent, and watch our nest eggs grow. That's my story. If you're thinking about starting your own investing journey, begin with clarity. Get organized. Build a budget you can live with. The investing part becomes so much easier once the foundation is in place. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.